we're just starting a balustrade replacement and stair refinishing in an existing home. I'm going to walk you through the process and also show you some other details on stair and balustrade building. This was a winter project, so lots of complications brought on by cold and snow. As you can see here, this house where we're putting a railing in, a lot of musical instruments in here, so we're putting up a dust barrier so that we can contain the dust to the area of the stairs. Like many homes built in the 60s and 70s, these stairs were originally covered by rug. The customer agreed to remove the rug and paint the stair stringers. He assured me that 99% of the thousands of rug staples had been removed from the staircase. We'll see. This metal balcony rail will be removed and replaced with an oak balustrade that is code compliant. This rail is deficient both in height and the spacing between the balusters. For safety reasons, we will have to close off this balcony at the end of every workday. In the interest of keeping this video to a reasonable length, I'll explain the steps as we go along, but if you want further detail on each process, check out the other videos on my channel, and I'll leave the links in the description. The first step is to cut the nosings off both staircases. Here I'm using a fine multi-master to trim the nosings flush with the stringer. Those places will be puttied, sanded, and painted before the stair finish is applied. I find that a cordless circular saw is the best tool for this task. I have a vacuum going here to reduce the dust. I use a sharp but inexpensive blade on the saw, and you'll see why shortly. A router with the pilot bit can be used to trim the treads tight to the riser if necessary. Well, back to the shop to stain and clear coat the stair treads and railing components. The process I follow is to sand thoroughly, then wipe with a wet sponge, lightly sand once the components are dry, and then apply stain. This process opens the pores and gives the best staining results. Then I apply several coats of a floor finish like Cement or Finitec. Both are very durable. The treads will need to cure for several days before we can package them or stack them on top of each other, so they are left in the shop while we return to the job site with the railing material. Back at the job site, we are assembling the balcony nosing here with dominoes and glue. The balcony post will be attached right at the corner, so it will be much simpler to install the post on top of the nosing.
Okay. Sorry, Scott, some of the shots are a little, okay, no, I'm just trying to get the gist of it.
Push on that, maybe. Yeah. There we go.
There you go. Thank you.
That's all it took.
So it's okay.
I'm using a Collins mitre clamp to secure this mitre joint while the glue sets. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that's really good. I've had really good results with these clamps. I'll leave links in the description for all the tools I use on this build. Now to start installing the newel posts. The first one will be the balcony newel post at the top of the stairs. Check out my video Newel Post Install with Zip Bolt Super UT for complete details on this process.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah?
Now the one thing I haven't covered in this video is the layout of the railing and post. I hope to do a separate video on that process in the future. But just briefly, the location of your balcony post is determined by the structure in the floor joist system.
It's live. You want more? Okay, let's try that square there. Should I hit that way? Or do that too much? A little bit. Okay.
Now the next step will be installing a newel post at the bottom of the stringer on both sets of stairs. Yeah, this is one of the more difficult newel post installations, so you should really check out my video on my channel that's specific to that process. Basically, you cut the stringer off at the front of the bottom riser and then make a 1.5 inch recess into the stringer where the newel post will be notched and attached. And also, when it comes to the staircases, it's the center of the stringer that determines the center of your railing. This story pole represents our newel post. I'm going to mark the notch for where the newel post will be notched to go over the stringer. Next, mark the bottom of the railing. Now this is now what's called the rake of the stairs, and I'll put an R there. Now I take the story pole, cut it to the required length, and transfer my lines onto the newel post for cutting the notch detail. I use story poles a lot in railing building for obvious reasons. It reduces the amount of mistakes for sure. In the past, I've tried a table saw and other methods for notching the newel post, but realistically, the cordless circular saw and a multi-tool is the best way to do this notch. The best way to do newel posts is installing them raw so they can be plugged, sanded, and stained for the best finishing results. Alright, so this is the second flight of stairs. We've cut the stringer off and notched it for the newel post. We've got the story pole in place, marking the top of the notch and also the rake of the stairs. And we've also got the rake of the stairs marked at the top of the stringer. We also had to cut a chunk of the laminate flooring out, and we used a track saw for that to make sure we had a nice crisp cut. Now for the half newels and railings. Generally I work from the top floor down, so I'm going to start with the half newels and the balcony rail. Check out my video on balcony rail with zip bolt. I'll put a link here. You'll see here that I use story poles for this as well. Whenever possible, I hide the screws in a location where they'll be covered by the railing or the shoe. Okay, got it?
Let me know when you need me to push.
Okay, go. Yeah. Okay,
Go.
push, yeah. Boom.
Boom. Oh yeah.
Here's 6 and 9. Okay.
Okay, there you go. Shoot that in there. Yeah, we'll put a couple screws in.
I countersink the screws because sometimes that oak shoe will break. Back in the shop, I'm painting all the balusters. I'm using so many strokes because I'm picking up the drip that forms on the edge of the baluster. I do have spray capability, but my shop is not really suitable for spraying in volume. I have a couple videos on my channel on baluster installation that includes calculating the spacing. I'll leave the links here. Are you filming right now? All right, I'll try and sound intelligent for the camera. Okay, shoot a pin nail in here. Done. All right, so that's that balcony rail completely done. Next is building the railing offset where the railing curves around this corner in the wall. This would be the most complicated step in railing and balustrade building, so you want to check out my video specific to this process. So basically what we've done here, we've laid 2 quarter turns one on top of the other. We've checked and we have about a 2 1/8 inch gap between the wall and the fitting going up the stairs, which is exactly right for the size of brackets we have. So we'll have to splice these 2 fittings and make a joint right about where that pencil mark is, and then also splice it to that piece of railing that we just cut. The Lamello Invis and the Festool domino are ideal tools for making these intricate joints. The Invis is a magnetic joinery system that is totally invisible. My video on the Invis explains exactly how the system works. It's best to do your joinery holes before the fittings are cut to finished size. Otherwise, they may be too small for easy handling. There, that's a nice joint. As I show in detail in my video on making a railing offset, the best way to lay out this cut is on a piece of sheet goods. Alright, so I think this should work. This is what you call a Canadian mitre station. Once the railing going up the stairs is cut to size, we take all the pieces back to the shop to do the glue up. The glue up will be left to set overnight, sanding and staining in the morning. Alden has been with me for a couple of years now, and he's actually very accomplished with staining and varnishing, much better than I am. Off camera, Alden has given the railing a couple of coats of a clear finish before we go back to the job site for the installation. All the stained railing components are given a light sand and a final coat of clear finish prior to the balusters being installed. Should I get that? Alden came up with a method for creating contoured plugs for filling in this screw hole on this railing, and I'll leave a link here for that video. In the right hand corner of the screen, I'm showing how the fillet size differs from spacing on the balusters because of the angle of the stairs. In other words, a 3 7/8 spacing equates to a 5-inch fillet. A spindle that is 1 1/4 is actually 1.5 inches on the angle. You have to use the larger numbers for your spacing calculations. For a short span like this, you can simply do a little mock-up on the baluster spacing. Alright, so we're installing the risers and the treads, and I'm using a tool called a Collins tread gauge. So what you do is you use a spanner that's 1.5 inches by 3/4, and it has to be less obviously than the size of the tread, and you just fit it in place, and you can trace your riser and your tread accurately, because one of the things with older stairs especially, you get some sagging and the cuts are often off square. So I'll just show you how you do that. Best thing to do is get one side fitting nice against the stair stringer, and then tighten this up securely. Then push the other side up against the opposite stringer, tighten up that stair gauge like so. Now I can go to the saw, cut my riser. I'll take the pencil line off and it should be right on. Okay, so this riser fits really nice. You can see a little black line where the riser intersects with the stair stringer, and that pretty much can't be avoided with white on white. You're going to see a dark line there. We're going to use a little bit of white caulking to clean that up when we're done. So the next step will be to use the stair gauge to mark our tread. I'll put some masking tape on my dark stair tread so the pencil line will show up. Doesn't hurt to be really fussy when you're doing this and check your gauge numerous times. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that setting. Now I'm going to move it over So I'm going to take the line off. And we'll go to the other side. See what kind of... Alright, so that definitely has to go almost a degree that way. Now one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this saw this way about a degree and make that cut again so I have a bit of a bevel on that left side. That's going to help me fit that tread into that staircase. So one of the things I do, I don't know if you can see, is I put a little back bevel on the back of that tread so that if there's any excess glue, it doesn't squirt up and squeeze out on the finished side of the project here. So we're just going to put that in place. Nice and tight. Alright, so I've just got the riser. I've pried it up with some little pry bars so it's snug to the tread. And I'm going to use a 23 gauge pin, about 1 inch long, just to hold that riser in place. And I can hide my pins along the bottom here where the stair tread is going to cover. 2-inch brad nails, 18 gauge brad nails into the top of this tread. And if the stairs were accessible from underneath, what I would be doing is using a screw from underneath to hold it in place. But in this case, I don't have that option. A little trick I do is I hide the brad nails in a dark portion of the oak grain, so it can easily be filled with a dark colored crayon. I cut and dry fit all the risers and treads and then install them working from the top down. I use Bostik flooring adhesive and sometimes a few dollops of LePage's No More Nails. You don't want to be messing around with trimming a riser or tread that has glue on the back of it. I'm going to show you how I make a template out of some scrap pieces of 1/4 inch MDF to cut this tread that goes around the newel post. A little bit tricky, angles are slightly off here and there because of an old set of stairs. So I'm just going to hot glue these pieces of MDF in place and then use that as my template. So it's just a little bit tight around that post. That's the trickiest part all the time, is that post. And so I'm just going to take, that's why it's nice to have this back bevel on here, because then it makes it a little bit easier to fit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take, if I can, a little bit off. Just off this edge here, it's a little bit snug here. And we'll just see if that'll work. See if that's enough. Yeah, there. That's going to go. I'm not going to pound it down all the way because there's no glue there. So you can see that that's a really nice fit. And it's hard to get them exactly perfect because you're dealing with a 1-inch thick piece of oak. Hence the bevel on each side and the fooling around with the sander and that. Especially around here, sometimes a jigsaw, no matter how good a jigsaw it is, it just doesn't make a perfectly 90-degree cut, especially on hardwood. So that should work. There we go. Just wipe that tread off, and it fits like a glove. So that's how you can use a template to get an exact fit on a stair tread, and it can, it also has other applications for other carpentry work. I've done 36-inch by 40-inch landings that are solid oak and using the same technique, just a whole lot more stress because it's worth $500, not 200 or more. Good. I'd like to take a moment here and thank those who subscribe and follow my channel. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you find helpful, likes and dislikes, less talking, more instruction, whatever the case may be. I create these videos for my audience, so your input is very important. I'd also like to thank my helpers, Alden and Eugene, both for their dedication to detailed work and great camera skills. I'm hoping this video was beneficial in teaching you something and showing you what goes into a balustrade and stair job. Let me know if you have any questions. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.